Euromaxx highlights. Coming up in the show. Successful, the international best-selling song The Power turns 20. Indestructible, the East German Trabi is back. Memorable, Guinness beer has been quenching thirsts for 250 years. Euromaxx highlights, and here's your host, Karen Helmstedt.
Greetings from Berlin and welcome to our highlights edition. One of which was a tribute to one of Britain's most successful women writers. Rosamunde Pilcher is a best-selling romance novelist whose stories of star-crossed lovers and passionate conquests have won her a huge readership. She's sold over 60 million books worldwide and is particularly popular here in Germany thanks to the fact that so many of her books have been adapted for television. Well, on Tuesday, she celebrated her 85th birthday, and we spoke to her about her writing career, which actually only really took off in a major way when she was nearing retirement age.
Romantic stories with a happy ending, like this one, have made Rosamunde Pilcher famous. Feel-good dramas with beautiful people falling in and out of love in gorgeous settings. Most of them are filmed in Cornwall in southwest England, where Pilcher herself used to live. These days, she lives in a cottage in a small village in Scotland. It doesn't look like the home of a millionaire, but that's what she is.
You don't need 3 cars and a jacuzzi. You don't, you know. And I think that this terrible striving and yearning is very destructive.
What is important to her is her family. She was married for 62 years. Her husband died earlier this year. Her children own the rights to her novels, and she's bought all 14 of her grandchildren a house. Although her books might be romantic through and through, Pilcher herself is extremely sensible. She's not a bit like her impulsive characters. She's a very practical person.
I think I'm quite detached. I think that's why I'm able to write, because I move back away from the emotions and can analyze them better.
Her novels thrive on emotions. They have a huge following in TV adaptations. Viewers love the perfect world they depict.
Once I'm writing a book, I'm writing for myself. I have no market in mind. I'm just writing about the people who are part of my story. And I don't think about anything else. I don't think about the market. I don't think about the money. I don't think about who's going to buy it. Once it's started, I'm just writing and putting a story down.
Over the years, Rosamunde Pilcher has written 25 novels and hundreds of short stories. She gets a rapturous reception wherever she goes. But she was 63 years old before she became successful.
I'd never expected it, but when it happened, I thought, I haven't wasted my life writing rubbish. And what I liked was that people were saying this woman is a writer. And that was very satisfactory to me.
And writing is what Rosamunde Pilcher lives for.
Somebody once asked me the 3 most important things in my life, and I said writing, family, and then friends. And they were appalled because they said, but your family should come first. And I said I wouldn't be any good to my children if I didn't write, because I would be frustrated and bored.
Her children have inherited her talent. Robin Pilcher, her oldest son, is also a writer and enjoying success similar to that of his famous mother. His latest novel is a bestseller in Germany. In fact, Robin never intended to be a novelist because he didn't want to be compared to his mother. She says there's no risk of that because they're completely different.
It's far more abstract than that, isn't it? I mean, I'm not handing him goods. I'm not handing him anything. He's done it all by himself. But it's just nice to feel that the tradition goes on, maybe.
Rosamunde Pilcher wrote her last novel in 2000, and she says she has no plans to start on another. But that doesn't mean she isn't still busy. She still writes the treatments for the German TV movies. Happy ending guaranteed.
Well, typical levity marked the happy beginning of that greatest of great German folk festivals, the Oktoberfest in Munich. And despite its name, the beer started flowing already on the 19th of September. And taking place this year for the 176th time, it's a huge deal for the local economy and also for millions of tourists for whom Oktoberfest is the most renowned display of German culture, period. We tagged along with a group who was hitting the Wiesn, as the locals call it, for the very first time.
The Oktoberfest in Munich attracts a crowd of 6 million every year. It's popular not only with Germans, but with visitors from all over the world. This particular group is made up of students from a German language course at the Goethe Institute in Schwäbisch Hall. Security is tight, but no one is letting that dampen their spirits.
I've always dreamt of coming and experiencing the Oktoberfest firsthand, to drink a liter of beer and have fun.
I looked up Oktoberfest on YouTube to see what goes on here. Well, now I'm here, and I'm looking forward to having a good time.
I'm planning on drinking 2 or 3 mugs because it's a whole liter, so about 3 will probably do it.
Sounds like a plan. So it's off to the tents. But now the group is facing its first challenge. All the tents are full up, and no one's being let in. The students are mystified. Then some locals give them a few words of advice.
Is there really no way to get in?
But no, you have to book weeks in advance. Lesson for today, it's pretty much impossible to get a seat at the Oktoberfest without a bit of advance planning.
I'm a bit disappointed. I think you either have to get here very early or have a reservation.
Or have connections. But there's more to the Oktoberfest than a few tents. The students head off to sample some specialities such as Lebkuchen, spicy gingerbread emblazoned with Bavarian sayings. Hans-Peter from Greenland prefers the fruit dipped in chocolate.
That's very good. Fresh strawberries. They'd be very expensive in Greenland.
Now fortified, the students try their luck again at getting into a tent. This time, they make it inside via a side entrance. They're met with a sight that leaves them speechless. Once they've taken a few photos, they set about ordering their first round. But that is easier said than done.
We'd like to drink some beer, but there are so many people, and I don't know if we're going to find a table.
Approximately 6.5 million liters of beer are drunk in the festival's 14 tents every year. Finally, the language students get to order. And they've managed to secure a table.
It's really difficult. There's so many people trying to get in. But we got lucky. And now we're all happy.
And after their first liter of beer, they're even happier. The group is getting the hang of it and going native. And soon they decide it's all so great they don't want to leave.
I really like it. The liters of beer, it's fantastic. That's bothering me a bit because we don't have beer that's good back in Greenland. German beer is just so great.
The beer might be good, but the air inside the tent is getting worse by the minute. Time to leave. After all, there are plenty of ways to make your head spin at the Oktoberfest. But it's getting late, and all good things must come to an end.
It was huge, bigger than I'd expected, but it was fantastic.
It was fun and really interesting watching all the people. What can I say? Oktoberfest is amazing.
The language students all agree they'll be back.
And so will the Oktoberfest. Well, now to a report that might just make some people start feeling their age. We've heard it for as long as we can possibly remember, but would you have believed that The Power, that catchy single by Snap that's been used in umpteen films and commercials, is already 20 years old? You heard me, 2-0. Written and produced by two DJs from Frankfurt back in 1989, it's still sending out an all-powerful vibe, one that has set the DJs up for life.
And you don't want that.
Whether it's adding atmosphere to sports sequences, providing the soundtrack to party scenes, or setting up the appearance of the hero, The Power is an abiding favorite with Hollywood film directors.
The Power can
do something that other songs can't. This song is constantly used for advertisement for films. That's quite unusual. It's something you can't plan. There are just classic advertising tunes that transport a message that everyone understands.
The license for the song has been sold some 2,000 times in the last 20 years for advertising and film. But The Power was really just an afterthought. Michael Münzing and Luca Anzilotti, two Frankfurt DJs, wrote the song in 1989 in just the span of a week on their computer. They formed the band Snap with rapper Turbo B as frontman. Since then, some 10 million copies of The Power have been sold. And the song continues to be rediscovered by filmmakers today.
The message in the song remains relevant. It doesn't get old. There are always new generations that don't know it. There are agents and clients who hear it and think it is a good mix. It's not just I've got the power, it's the complete package.
Shortly after the release of the song came the first request to use it commercially. Radio channels in the US with the name Power Station wanted to use the song, and with that, The Power began its second career.
The song's been used in Bulgaria, Romania, America, Sweden. I don't think there's any country where we haven't sold the license. In Mexico for telecom. Sometimes we wonder why, but that's just how it is.
The list of products that have been advertised with the song is endless. Chocolate, babies' nappies, cars, beer, mobile phones, and even insect spray.
Ajan ne haber? Bugün hattın ucunda sonuna kadar benlesin lütfen. Dinle.
We never thought it would be like that when we wrote it. It's been non-stop for 20 years and our grandchildren will probably still be enjoying it. It's just a classic advertising song. The agencies that we work with continue to use it, and it's successful with their clients. It's a symbiosis. Everyone's a winner, really.
Michael Münzing and Luca Anzilotti have now made more money with the licensing of the song than with the original album sales. They still like to go to the movies when they know their song is coming up.
What was really funny was in the film Bruce Almighty. I got goosebumps.
When that scene comes, everyone loves it in the cinema, because the character sings along with the music. That's just great.
And he saw that it was good.
Munzing and Anzilotti field 100 requests to use the song each year, and there's no sign of things dropping off. It looks like The Power could still be a hit in Hollywood in another 20 years' time.
And almost 20 years after the fall of the Berlin Wall, the most common car in the former East Germany could be poised for a comeback. The Trabant, affectionately known as the Trabi, was smelly, noisy, made of plastic and prone to breakdowns. But in a country where you had to wait about 12 years to get one, it was the object of a special desire. Well, ever since production stopped in 1991, the Trabi's collector and cult status has increased exponentially, and Trabi lovers thrilled at the unveiling of an electric version prototype at this year's International Automobile Fair in Frankfurt.
The Trabi is back. East Germany's best-selling car has gotten a tune-up. An old favorite, now with a futuristic new design. Niels Puschwater is responsible for the cutting-edge concept. He was so excited by the project that he gave up his job at Volkswagen to take it on.
Finally unveiling the prototype was really moving, and the attention was such a thrill. The press were there and expectations were high.
All the excitement was understandable. The prototype is the first ever major redesign of the celebrated classic. The first Trabant rolled off assembly lines 50 years ago in the city of Zwickau in Saxony. It was no high-tech masterpiece, but it was highly durable. Over the years, the Trabant saw minimal fine-tuning with only a few touch-ups.
This is new too. You press this button to start the windscreen wipers.
The Trabant's plain and simple design stood the test of time. The old models, like the ones here in the August Horch Museum in Zwickau, served as a design standard for Niels Puschwater.
It's simplicity that makes it a classic. It's a very genuine car and absolutely practical.
Yet the Trabi is also full of noteworthy details.
The rounded headlight gives it a nice definition that stretches all the way down the side of the car to the tail light. And the trapezoidal grille that opens up slightly towards the bottom gives the Trabant a smile of sorts.
Though footage of Trabis on their way into West Germany was seen the world over when the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, production of the enigmatic vehicles ground to a halt 2 years later. East Germans wanted other cars. But the rest of the world was growing fond of the Trabi. The Irish band U2 even took the Trabant, suddenly a symbol of freedom, on tour in 1992. Today, Europe is full of Trabi collectors, Trabi conventions, and Trabi fan clubs. The cult's car status didn't make efforts to design a worthy successor any easier.
Working on a design icon is a really big deal because people expect a lot, and then you start thinking, can I really do this?
But together with companies from both eastern and western parts of Germany, Niels Puschwater got the job done. Work on the prototype took more than a year, but just how close to the original is the new and improved Trabant NT?
The old model is pretty flat and boxy, which we tried to change. We gave it more volume and made it sportier, but by and large, the formal elements that make the car what it is are still the same. But the new model is much more modern, of course, because we reinterpreted all the different elements.
The car still boasts rounded headlights and a simple interior design. The front is sleeker and the cabin more spacious. Gone is the plastic paneled body. But the biggest changes are under the hood. The new design is set to get an electric engine. And if the project finds the right investor, the Trabant NT could hit the streets by 2012.
Believe it or not, I can still remember my first and possibly only ever ride in a Trabant. It was my grandfather's Trabant back in 1980. Certainly quite an experience as a kid coming from Canada. Well, finally, we can finish off the show with a symbolic pint of Guinness in honour of that legendary brew's 250th anniversary. It was in December of 1759 that Arthur Guinness started brewing ales in the Irish capital, Dublin. And a mere 10 years later, his famous Black Gold, as it's known, was already being exported. A distinctive feature of Guinness is the strong burnt flavour that's derived from roasted barley, the kind of taste you either love or hate. Well, the Dubliners themselves couldn't do without it.
Guinness Stout is brewed behind these doors. The black beer from Dublin, Ireland is the stuff of legend. And this is where it's all been written down, at the Guinness archive of Evelyn Roche. In Ireland, brewing is a centuries-old tradition.
Back in the Middle Ages in Ireland, water wouldn't have been as sanitary, I suppose, as it is today. And we do know that in the 1600s and 1700s and into the 1800s in Ireland, that most families would have drunk quite a weak version of ale, because at least if they were drinking a weak version of ale, it meant that the water was boiled.
In the 18th century, ale was the drink of the working classes. But the Irish brewing industry was struggling because British ale was cheaper. But that didn't stop Arthur Guinness from realising his dream. He bought this brewery at St James's Gate. At the time, it was idle and poorly equipped. On December the 31st, 1759, he signed a 9,000-year lease for the property.
It actually does seem to be quite unusual that he would have signed for 9,000 years. Looking back on quite a lot of legal and land transactions from that period, from the 1700s, it seems to have been normal to have done either 99 years or maybe 900 years, but it does seem quite unusual to be 9,000 years. He obviously had a great belief in himself and his beer.
At that time, a new drink, a dark beer called porter, was becoming increasingly popular in London. As the old books tell the story, Arthur Guinness made a pioneering decision. He decided to brew the new beer himself in Dublin.
He wasn't the first person to brew a dark beer, but what he did do was he committed to signed a document saying he was only going to brew using the finest raw ingredients.
Arthur Guinness's brewery became the biggest in Ireland and later the world. And while Arthur was still running the company, the beer was already being shipped around the globe on British trade routes to the Caribbean, Africa and North America. This early move to export marked the start of a long success story. Guinness became a major international company. That it's maintained this status can be attributed to a 7-generation family dynasty of maverick thinkers that often brought new, unusual ideas into their business.
I think everything that Guinness has done is always that little bit quirky, and you see that from the Guinness advertisements, from even the early advertisements using animals to advertise Guinness. It's always been that little bit quirky. We never take ourselves too seriously.
Attention, attention, unidentified objects approaching from the east. All personnel proceed to exit.
From early on, the toucan became the advertising mascot for Guinness. There's another unusual idea that's attributed to Guinness as well. The Guinness Book of World Records was the brainchild of Sir Hugh Beaver, Guinness's managing director in the 1950s. In many Irish pubs, the beer and its history are inseparable, and this is where the old traditions are kept.
Oh, I live in Australia, but every time I come back to see family, I always come down to the pub and have a pint of Guinness. So it's like coming home when I have my pint of Guinness.
I was here in Dublin before, and I tasted it, and then went back to the States to drink it, and it just does not taste the same.
It's the spirit of Ireland.
It's also a formula for success that's likely to keep Guinness brewing for a few more centuries.
Almost makes you thirsty for a pint right now. Well, don't forget you can revisit our highlights on our website. And with that, we've reached the end of this edition. So until we meet again, take good care and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.